Hey chums, and welcome back to another video. First of all, let me begin by wishing you all a very Merry Christmas if you are celebrating, and I do hope you have had an absolutely wonderful weekend. I got to host this year for the first time in a few years, and so I've really enjoyed getting to spend time in the kitchen cooking up a storm for all of my family. And in today's video, I'm going to be showing you one of the things that has to be on our Christmas table, otherwise the family will, well, to be fair, it's the first thing that they ask if I'm going to be making before they even come. So let's get to the video. Now, the first time I ever hosted Christmas, it was in a rented flat that was absolutely tiny, and I decided that I wanted to go all out and just completely over the top. Not much has changed, but that year in particular, I bought what has since become my Christmas cooking/baking Bible. BBC Good Food magazine from December 2009. Now, there are a few different recipes that we tried in this magazine, including this one here for the Christmas pudding ice cream, which, by the way, was amazing. I did end up eating most of it that year though, so we haven't made it again since. But there was one recipe in here that, without fail, everybody asks if I'm going to be baking up a batch of them over the Christmas period. Literally every single event, get together or anything we go to, I'm asked to bring a batch of the BBC Good Food magazine walnut and raisin oatcakes. Now, I'll be honest with you, I've already made up a few batches of them this year already. We had them here, I sent some home with my sister and with my mum, and I even delivered some to some of my friends as well. But this year I got to thinking, I wonder what it would be like if I switched up some of the ingredients slightly. Now, the original recipe, which I will link down in the video description because it is still available online, uses walnuts and raisins, as you heard, and it also uses white caster sugar. So I got to thinking, well, what about if I switched the walnuts for pecans, which are my absolute favourite nuts, and the raisins for dried cranberries? I also think they would benefit from having golden caster sugar instead, just because it would give us a slightly more kind of caramelly flavour. Well, that's the plan anyway. So in today's video, we're going to be adapting the recipe that I have been baking for the last 12 years? I think it's 12 years. For the last 12 years, switching out the walnuts for pecans, switching out the raisins for cranberries, and switching out that white caster sugar for golden caster sugar, in the hope that it makes them even better. I've never done it before. You're going to see the results, well, not live because it's not live, but you're going to receive the results as I see them in this video, and I'm going to stop talking and start baking. As you can see, I am using a stand mixer. I have made these in a bowl with a wooden spoon as well, so if you do fancy having a go at them and you don't have a stand mixer, panic not. The first thing we're going to do, before we do any mixing though, is take the milk. Again, all the quantities and everything are linked down in the recipe in the video description. But I've got 4 tablespoons of whole milk, and I'm going to add a 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder to my milk. And what that's going to do is just sit there, and it will end up going quite kind of gloopy, but that's what we want. We want it to change in consistency. So I'm giving that a bit of a stir, and then I'm just going to pop this to the side while we get on with the rest of the recipe. So next job is to put the butter and the golden caster sugar, which I already mentioned, into the bowl of the stand mixer, and I'm going to fit that with the creaming beater, and I just want to cream these together until it's really light, pale, fluffy, the same as we do when we're baking cakes, and that shouldn't take more than a couple of minutes. If you are doing this and you don't have a creaming beater, don't forget to stop it and scrape down the sides a couple of times just to make sure that all of those ingredients are being thoroughly combined. And now we wait. When you're happy with how that's looking, we're going to take that creaming beater off, and hopefully you can see that it's gone really pale and light, that's what we're looking for. Just scraping off any of the mix that is stuck to the beater, because we don't want to waste any. And I'm also just going to whiz around the bowl as well, just to kind of gather that mixture into the centre. Because that creaming beater is nice and combined, I just kind of want it all in the middle. And then it's simply a case of just pouring in all of the other ingredients. So I have got the all-important oats. Can't make oat biscuits without oats, of course. I've got some wholemeal plain flour. We don't want these to rise at all really, so we're not using self-raising flour. And then in here I've got the all-important cranberries and pecans, and all I've done with those is just chop them up so they're in nice small pieces. Not really fine, I do want some chunks, but obviously I don't want whole nuts because they're quite big. The last thing that's going in there is that milk and baking powder mixture. And then I'm going to switch from the creaming beater to the regular K beater, because this is going to be quite a stiff mix, and so I want something that's really going to be able to power through. The K mix in particular is great for a mixture like this because it's so heavy, it's really going to hold its own against such a thick mixture. What we're looking for it to do is kind of start to clump together, and that will tell me that it's ready for me to transfer onto the worktop. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. So again, just a case of getting any of the mixture that's caught on the beater off so we don't waste it. And I'm going to just tip this out onto the worktop. And you'll see it's a very loose, kind of crumbly mix, but with those clumps that we were looking for. But if we start to squeeze it together, you'll see that it will come together in one big lump. So just keep squeezing, pressing everything together, making sure you're scooping up any loose bits. And you should end up with one solid-ish ball of biscuit dough. Okay, when you get to this stage, we're going to pop this aside for a second. We're just going to prep our baking tray ready to cook these in a moment. So here I have got a large baking tray, and I've just lined it with a piece of greaseproof or baking paper. Then I'm going to take a neutral flavoured oil, like vegetable oil, and I'm just going to brush that lightly over the paper. You might think it's a bit overkill to do both the paper and the oil. I just always do. I do find it gives you kind of more of a caramelisation on the bottom of the biscuits as well, so definitely worth doing. Okay, and we're not looking for loads. Literally, I think that was what, 2-3 dips in the oil with the brush. And then when you're happy with that, we can pop it to the side again and get on with making those biscuits. I've got a little bit more of that wholemeal plain flour. I'm just going to lightly dust the worktop with that, and then onto my mix as well. Now again, it is still quite crumbly, so don't panic if it starts to crack apart as you're squeezing it down. It's absolutely fine. Just squeeze it back together. And then grab your rolling pin and roll it out till it's about 1 centimetre thick. Again, if it starts to break apart anywhere, just squeeze it back together. And then you want to grab a small, kind of like a 5 centimetre pastry cutter, and we're just going to use that to cut out rounds of our mixture that should give you something that look like this. I'll show you on that camera as well. There you go. Pop that onto your baking tray and then keep going. They shouldn't spread too much, by the way, so you can put them pretty close together. When you've cut out as many as you can from that first rollout, simply grab everything back together, give it another good squeeze, and then we can roll it out again. And then just keep recombining, rolling out and cutting until you've used up all of your mixture. You should find from that amount of ingredients that you can get about 30 to 40 oat biscuits out of your mix, and when you're done you should end up with something that looks like this. Now the recipe says to pop those into a preheated oven at 180 degrees or 160 fan, which I believe is gas Mark 5, for around 15 minutes, but I'll be honest with you, I tend to do mine for a little bit longer, just until they're starting to catch on the edges and go a nice kind of pale brown colour. You can particularly spot the colour on the bottom, so after that first 15 minutes you might want to take them out, have a quick look, and if like me you'd like them a little bit crispier, just spin the tray around and pop it back in for another 3 to 5 minutes and they will be absolutely perfect. So I'm going to go and pop these in the oven and I will see you in just a moment, hopefully with a batch of beautifully baked oat biscuits. And as if by magic, well actually I'm going to confess it's not 15 minutes later because I've let these cool down a bit as well. What you'll find when they come out of the oven, they are actually really soft. They almost feel quite spongy, but you want to leave them to cool down completely and then they will go harder, so that's really important. This is what they look like. I'll be honest, they're not the most exciting thing to look at, but they smell really good. And I'll tell you what, I absolutely love them with goat's cheese. So I have made up a little plate for myself. I'm gonna give these a try. Because as I say, this is an experiment. I've never done it with the cranberry and pecans before. So we're gonna go all out. We're gonna pop on some butter. Which one should we try? Let's try this one here. It's still a little bit warm, so hopefully I'm not gonna destroy them. No, they feel quite solid now. Take a little bit of this. I've got soft goat's cheese, which I absolutely love. We even bought some grapes. I'm going to leave those for now so I get the full effect of the oatcake. You can definitely taste the pecans much more than you can the walnuts. I don't know what it is, but the pecan has a much more kind of dominant flavour. Should I get any cranberry? Do you know what? I think that was a big success. Loving the cranberry, loving the pecans, but they're not so overpowering that they're going to dominate whatever you're putting on them, but it really, really works. And I definitely think switching out the white caster sugar for the golden caster sugar was a good call, because it just gives it kind of a richer flavour. So yeah, if you fancy having a go at my new and improved pecan and cranberry oat biscuits, then head down to the BBC Good Food link in the video description. And remember, all you need to do is switch out the walnuts for pecans, switch out the raisins for cranberries, and switch out the caster sugar for golden caster sugar. And then you too can enjoy some absolutely delicious homemade, I mean, you saw how easy they were, but absolutely delicious, super easy homemade oat biscuits, perfect to go with your cheese board if you're having, if you've got leftovers to finish, or you're doing anything for New Year's, or in fact, just like me, you like to eat cheese. But anyway, I do hope you enjoyed learning how to make my favourite oat biscuits with me. And if you did enjoy this video, please do give it a thumbs up as always. And if it was your first time watching one of my videos, then don't forget to hit that big red subscribe button before you go. You can also click on the bell icon if you'd like to get a notification every time I upload a new video, which incidentally I do every Monday at 6 o'clock-ish. This one might be late. Once again, let me wish you a very Merry Christmas. It is technically still Christmas. And if I don't speak to you before, a Happy New Year. I will be back at the same time next week on Monday with another video. And we're starting a new series. I'll give you a bit of a clue. It's my birthday month. So read into that what you will. But until then, as always, take care. And most importantly, happy baking.